order the April 24th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting. And I think, did you want to share with us what you're doing real quick? Sorry, I can't see you. Before we turn it off.
We just wanted you guys to see this as our engagement lab, so we wanted to give you an opportunity to experience slightly what this was, but we will shut that off and be able to turn lights on for everybody. But welcome to Madison. We're excited to have you here. So.
Thank you. Okay, the Nebraska Open Meetings Act legislates the methods by which public meetings are conducted. Information pertaining to this act is available on the board clerk table here in the corner if you are interested in reading it. And our mission statement, North Platte Public Schools is a destination school district and community that embraces innovative opportunities and distinguished programs to create highly competitive advantages for all students, instilling the canteen spirit in an evolving world. The canteen spirit embodies generosity, selflessness, and unwavering support through service, pride, collaboration, and grit. Sheila, can I get roll call?
Joanne Green. Present. Emily Garrett.
Present.
Cindy O'Connor.
Present.
Skip Altig.
Present.
Angela Blazy.
Present.
Justin Thompson.
Justin did contact me. He will be coming late tonight. He had some other obligations, so I would entertain a motion to excuse him if anybody would want to make one.
I'll make a motion to excuse Justin Thompson.
Second.
Roll call.
Emily Garrett.
Aye.
Cindy O'Connor.
Aye.
Skip Altig.
Aye.
Angela Blazy.
Aye.
Joanne Green. Aye.
All right. I would entertain a motion at this time for the approval of publication for the April 24th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting.
I'll make a motion for approval of publication for the April 24th, 2025 Committee of the Whole. Second.
Roll call.
Cindy O'Connor.
Aye.
Skip Altig.
Aye.
Angela Blazy.
Aye.
Joanne Green. Aye. Emily Garrett.
Aye. Motion passes. And similarly, for the approval of the agenda, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda of the April 24th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting.
I move to approve the agenda.
A second.
Roll call.
Skip Altig.
Aye.
Angela Blazy.
Aye.
Joanne Green. Aye. Emily Garrett.
Aye.
Cindy O'Connor.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Behind Sheila. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will start tonight's meeting off with our board engagement portion of the meeting. So this is an opportunity to share about any school visits you've done, activities you've attended, or trainings, meetings, anything like that you'd like to share.
I'll go first since I wasn't here last month. So I have 2 months worth. On March 11th, I visited the Lake School. What I enjoyed through the whole thing is that all the classrooms were engaged in education. Third graders were working on fractions using a clock, which I found very interesting because most kids don't know an analogical clock. They're used to the digital. I know that from my grandson too, but he's got that down now. Also, the first graders were working on STEM down in the old music room. They were working on a STEM project in pairs, and it was very interesting to see how they worked together in trying to figure out some things they were doing. You know, how advanced compared to when I went to school, which I won't tell you how long ago that was. It's truly amazing, and all the things, how advanced we are at certain grade levels. They have a perfect attendance wall at the lake, where any student that has perfect attendance, they put his or her picture up there. And they also have a student of the month. They do the same thing. And it was good to see what was going on. Also on Sunday, March 23rd, I attended the musical Into the Woods, which was excellent, very enjoyable. Mrs. Purdy and Mrs. McDaniel should be commended if nobody had mentioned that yet. Then on Thursday, April 3rd, I attended with several other people the NPEA retirement celebration at Venue 304. It was a great evening. Kenzie Mulring and Nicole Bruck and other NPE officers there, I know, did a great job, and I was very impressed with it. The retirees were moving, which I knew they would be, having been there myself. It was great to be there. And I know it means a lot to the retirees. It really does. On Tuesday, April 15th, I visited Lincoln School. Excellent visit. I did not get into all the classrooms because they were testing. And one classroom, a student was teaching other students about the Titanic, because the student knows all about the Titanic. And because that was around the date when it sank, and I thought it was really interesting, really good, and the students were all paying very great attention. They also have a wall with students of the month for each grade level, pictures, and their certificate that they have. They have a Harry Potter room for 4th and 5th graders, that they have an after-school club for 4th and 5th graders where they're reading different books of Harry Potter's, and they meet after school and discuss those. And I thought that was great, because I know how a lot of kids specifically get into Harry Potter. And they have, it's kind of decorated in drop curtains, like the hall that they meet in and all that. It was very intriguing. They also have a Lego board in the hallway where students can check out to go for like 10 minutes or something to work on something. It's not really just to get them out of the class, it's just to have them do something. Sometimes kids will meet there. She talked about there's a brother and a sister who aren't living together, who meet there and talk and work on the Lego board together. But that was great. I also ran into Marv Runback there, and that goes back. Marv delivers mail for the school now, but back in my day, he was my bus driver for years for all of my traveling with speech, debate, drama trips. So he had to reminisce with me on several things. Vicki knows that. Reminisce with me on some of the trips, things he remembers that I don't. But it was a very enjoyable visit. I just love visiting the schools, as you all know. Now, I won't visit one in May because we don't have that much time and things get kind of hectic, but I'll be revisiting in September. That's all I have.
Thanks, Skip. Who else?
Well, I went and visited Buffalo this week. It really is like herding cats when you see these little kids. They are just a hoot. Stuart went with me. A lot of the kids were doing festivities out on the playground because it was such a nice day. We went through the break room, and of course a couple of the kids outside saw us in the break room, and they're going like this, and then they're calling their friends over, and then they're waving, and it was just a hoot, and it was so colorful in there, and I was really surprised how big the rooms are. I forgot how big they were, but it was very joyful to be over there.
As a mom of a preschooler, I know exactly what you mean. It's a great explanation, Cindy.
Okay, so I sat in on an NASB member legislative update the day after our last committee of the whole meeting. I didn't take very thorough notes just because I knew that between then and now things will have changed a lot, and we are getting pretty regular updates from Skip and Dr. Rhodes and Mr. Simpson. So, but it was good to sit in on that. I had a student participating in the music contest on April 4th, and so that is always a good event to go and just kind of observe. It gives our students here an opportunity to compete, even though they're mainly competing against themselves. And it involves the choir department, the orchestra, and the band. And it's always a pretty great event. The students, even though it's just a competition with themselves, they're always very stressed out. And so just wanting to do their best. And so it's nice that our music students are offered that opportunity. And then another musical opportunity that happened, so I was able to go to the Take 3 performance at the high school on April 17th, and this was actually a group that was brought in by a grant that Mrs. Kemmerer and in addition to some others in the community, and I believe Terry with the foundation had something to do with it as well. The concert on the 17th was a free will donation, and those funds were going toward the restoration of the piano at the high school. Mrs. Burchell told me that any funds that weren't to be used on the actual piano, they've had other conversations about potentially getting a housing unit for the piano so that there's humidity control and all of these really great things so that the piano can be maintained. But the group actually went to, I believe it was Washington Elementary earlier in the day, and worked with some of those students. And then I know they were also at the high school. And to be honest, I was a little bit on the fence about whether I was going to go to their performance that night, but my student came home with rave reviews and told me some really fun stories about how that group kind of came together. And so it was really fun. My husband and I attended, and it was fantastic. And these ladies performed, they said 300 days out of the year, and they just phenomenal. And especially the pianist came from Japan, and she started actually performing with these ladies in September, and the first day she performed live with them, they had a couple of Zoom practices together, was actually their first performance in September. So she came over from Japan, they did maybe a quick rehearsal, and then they were on, and so it was really, and there's an interesting story behind the cellist too, but I won't get into that. So ask me about it later if you want to know. It was really a fun story. So and then just the other day, yesterday I guess, I was on another NASB. They had the federal legislative update with Reg, I'm not sure how to say, Lichty, and he's in a group that deals with law and policy in Washington, D.C. They did talk about some policies that might be coming down the pike eventually that have to do with social media and kids online, and specifically they're finding that kids are able to access illegal substances through some of their social media accounts and different things, and so they're looking at some things there. They talked about a little bit about budget and how if there is anything that changes with Perkins, it won't be this year, but there could be some things that affect Perkins next year. They talked about DEI, and there was a letter that came out, I think they said it was in March. There was something at the that came out, and so they were talking about just pretty broadly about the elimination of DEI. They said OCR sent out a FAQ list that would clarify some of the people had very specific questions about if this was considered DEI or that was considered DEI, and so he said there was a list, and there were a couple of people who hadn't seen the list, and so they asked if they could get that, and he was able to share it. I haven't seen it come out from NASB yet, but I imagine if anybody else wants to see that, they could access it through them too. And then people asked questions about cuts to the Department of Ed, and Reg said he thought that some of those cuts, they're going to find that they're going to have to do some rehires. He said some of his thought behind some of the cuts was that they might be looking to rehire people that are more ideologically aligned with the current administration, is the way that he put it. And then he also talked a little bit about the ESSER funds, and there were some people that were upset that the extension on being able to spend those funds had been cut short. And so they kind of talked about some of the legal issues with that. And then there was a question on option enrollment. And I guess I hadn't really considered this, but apparently the gentleman that asked the question, he said that school choice in Nebraska is our option enrollment program. And so he was just asking some questions about, you know, if the Trump administration pushes forward with some of the things that they are wanting to do with school choice, how that would affect our schools with option enrollment. And he brought up the election and how the voters had voted not to give those funds to private schools for those individuals who opted into those schools. And so it sounds like there's still a lot of things to kind of keep an eye on. So it was really good to get that update from him, and I'm sure we'll hear more as things continue to happen. And then I just wanted to mention, I have been to a couple of tennis events. If anybody would like to play with some of the tennis students, they are having they call it their guard dog tournament. It's on May 8th. And usually it's a parent and their student, or a guardian and their student, but there's always people that need partners. So if anybody wants to play, it's always a fun event. And I believe Mrs. McDaniel has the spring play tonight. Or is it? There's one tomorrow and Saturday maybe, and then again on Monday.
Spring play's Friday and Saturday
Okay,
this week.
yeah. So it's coming up. So if you're looking for something to do Friday and Saturday, and then I think there is another performance maybe on Monday night of a different play.
That's her
because she's
traveling
doing-
show that she's going to be taking to the elementary schools, but the public performance of that is Monday.
night.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are some things that if somebody's looking for something to do that are coming up at the high school. So.
Angela, do you have anything? All right, just making sure before I jump in. I attended similar things, so I will just kind of fill in if I have any additional notes. I did also attend, and Angela, yes you did, the NPPS retirement celebration.
I know, but I don't have anything else to say about it.
I do. Team ACE was very good at trivia. If you are good at putting together acronyms, that was Angela, Cindy, and Emily who made a comeback. No, I just wanted to say I thought it was a really nicely put on event. Really honored those staff members well. I felt like I really knew a lot about them at the end of that trivia game, so that was fun. And so, yeah, I just want to say thanks to the ladies at NPPS for putting that on. And I know that trivia had to be a massive amount of work to put that together. So thank you guys for doing that. And then I did also attend a couple of different calls and things this week, but one was also that NASB federal advocacy call. Was that just yesterday?
Yeah.
Man, this has been a long week.
That's how I thought.
So I think there were like 70 or so people on this call, which was kind of good to see. Joanne and I were both on there for North Platte, and it was just interesting to hear just kind of a rundown of itinerary of, kind of anticipated dates and anticipated impacts of things. So they did mention that October 1st is when work would begin for the next budget year, that the House and the Senate had agreed to a 10-year budget cycle. And then the House Commerce Committee is scheduled to vote on some of the cuts the week of May 5th. And then the House of Ed and Workforce Committee, their vote hasn't been scheduled yet. But they did mention that some of the proposed cuts would include some things that could potentially impact education by way of Pell Grants, school lunches, SNAP program, and Medicaid. They also spent a little bit of time talking about like workforce and education, some acts and things that were happening there are being revisited, and how that could potentially impact some of our CTE programs, youth apprenticeships. There were some things there that it sounded like could be some positive things, some things changing there. I also did find it interesting, and I appreciated that there's some work being done around the safety of kids online and privacy. As Joanne mentioned, there were some conversations about, how to better protect kids online and kind of enforcing some things with social media to limit, or for parents to be able to tailor what their kids' experience might be like. And then they talked a little bit that apparently the way the law is right now, only students under 13, technically, their data and privacy is protected, but over 13, it's different. And so there's been some talks about expanding that, which would then potentially impact schools, because there would be some programs and softwares and things that we might use as a district that would have to potentially change some of their things that they do. Again, a lot of discussions about DEI. And then there were some Q&A time at the end, and there were a lot of questions about whether or not people thought that the Department of Ed would be shut down. He did say that he did not feel like that was looking likely that would happen.
And kind of explain the process of what
Yes.
they would have to do to make that happen
Yes.
if it were to happen.
So probably some definite changes happening, but not a shutdown. So I think everybody's kind of in a wait and see still on a lot of that stuff, but it was a really helpful update. So I appreciate that they did that. And they did mention they will be recording that, so if there's anyone that wasn't able to attend that, they will post that on their website, and they have already posted that last state legislative update that they did.
And I think the portion where Reg spoke, it was probably around a half an hour was all,
Right.
and then
The
the
rest
rest of
was
it was
questions.
questions. So, but still all within an hour, so it's not real long.
Yeah, very informative. All right, anybody else have anything else to share? Okay, we will move on to our public comments. Public questions and comments may take place at this time in the agenda. Individuals who want to address the board must complete a guidelines for public comments form with the date, topic addressing, name, address, and the name of any organization you represent, and give it to the board clerk prior to the meeting. Sheila, do we have any?
I have none.
Okay. On to the rest of our agenda. So our first item here is our Madison site plan presentation. So I would like to welcome Mrs. BoE and some of our Madison staff.
Well, thank you. Welcome again to Madison. We appreciate you guys coming out and visiting. We are going to, our agenda tonight is, obviously we'll kind of be sharing our team and explaining who's on it, and then we'll be kind of sharing our Madison mission, our vision and beliefs, and then we'll cover some of our site plan goals, and then a few things that we're doing this year and a few things that are planned for next year. So kind of our agenda there you can see. On our team, so we have a couple of leadership teams here at Madison. So we have our guiding coalition and our SIP team. And kind of going into next year, we're meshing those two. So here I have a couple of members. I have Nikki Alteg, who is a SPED teacher here at Madison, and then I have Heather Harvey, who's one of our math teachers. But really, we've tried to take a little bit of everybody from each department to be part of our teams. So, and we are creating an additional team. So our guiding coalition is merging with our SIP team, but then we also are going to have an ICU team, which you'll hear a little bit more about later. So, kind of going to be, but our school is a big part of, like, when we have these leadership teams, we really come together to kind of set our mission statement, our goals. It's been really an amazing process. So everybody truly in our building kind of has a leadership role. So our Madison vision is Madison Middle School provides a respectful, safe, and goal-driven environment for all students. We inspire students to be organized, creative, curious, and independent thinkers in preparation for a lifetime of learning. And here at Madison, we believe relationships are essential. We believe consistent high expectations create success. We believe students should feel safe and valued, and we believe in every student's ability to learn, reach their potential, and achieve independence. So when we created these, I will say that the districts, we really modeled the strategic planning model that the district used. So we broke up into small teams, everybody had a say in it, and we didn't kind of do a voting process on this. It was, we didn't really leave the room until everybody was unanimous and felt comfortable with what it is and really what their heart was. But you guys can be part of the process. When we talked about it, it went really smooth, and it really, everybody had the voice, and so it really felt good. Because I think walking away from it, we really knew, we thought we knew our school, but putting it down on paper really made a big difference. So, all right. So on our site plan, one of our goals is an attendance goal, and so our attendance goal is that by the end of the school year, the 24-25, Madison Middle School is committed to improving student achievement by increasing the percentage of students with fewer than 10 absences per year to 78%, up from 73% last year. We work with families creating plans or getting doctor's notes, anything that we can do to help improve their attendance. So currently, our results, obviously we still have the rest of the year to go, but we are at 79% of our students that have 10 or fewer absences. Our proactive measure so far this year is that we actually have 32 attendance plans written on students, and we actually have filed 6 truancies. And you know, we're appreciative of our student services for helping that, and the county attorney who supports us, because when we do, that's like our last ditch effort to file on. But students at this age also become part of that filing on, so it's not just a parent's choice, it's also the student's choice. And we see, again, last ditch effort, but we do see some major results when they're there. So, but most of them get rid of it.
So I'm going to talk about the behavior goal. By the end of the 24-25 academic year, Madison Middle School aims to achieve a 10% reduction in major office referrals compared to the previous year, 23-24, promoting a safer and more positive learning environment. So currently, we have not met this goal, unfortunately, but 24% of students have had one major referral. 1% of students have had 3 or more major referrals. So on a positive note, more students feel safe and empowered to report incidences, allowing us to address them effectively. Our top 3 behaviors are technology violations. Second place is physical aggression, and last is disruptions. Then our third goal is the MTSS process. By the end of the 24-25 school year, Madison Middle School will continue evolving its MTSS process and data collection. This data will follow students to the next school year, to Adams. Currently, we meet about once a month. Our key strategies that we have in place is staff data tracking sheet. So like I have a notebook in my classroom where when I meet with students, I'll mark it down, maybe what we did, how they did with it, that kind of thing. Individual behavior plans, which could be like a buddy room if they're needing a break. It could be like check in, check out at the beginning and end of the day. Weekly progress monitoring to support and intervention. Ongoing collaboration among staff to promote consistency across content areas. So like the math department, we meet all the time during our plan time. We meet and we'll talk about different things that are working for students and that kind of thing. And then that at our monthly meeting when we meet with administration, we'll share out how the students are doing, what kind of things we're doing with them that's working, what we've tried, and maybe it's not working, so we can kind of put our heads together and come up with different strategies or ideas. And then peer mentoring observations. So every quarter, we're asked to go into another classroom and just look for different things that they're doing that you could like walk away with and go, ooh, that was really cool. I'm going to start doing that in my classroom. And you walk away with some ahas like I did. I went and watched PE third quarter. I walked away and went, oh, I'll stay in math. Thank you. But PE, I was like, whew, too much. So you walk away with different things, or you'll see something that you're like, oh, I forgot, that's another teaching strategy that you can use. And then all of the data that we put together when we meet as a group, we put on a form, and we document every time that we meet what we've done, and it's an ongoing thing. And then Mrs. Volley will send it over to Adams so that they're not starting from scratch. So to kind of save time.
Yeah, so then there's a couple things on this slide that we'll talk about as well. The first is just kind of the data that is presented here. So when we look at our caseload sheets in the special education department from the beginning of the year until now, our students that are verified with like academic needs, behavioral needs, social, emotional, our caseloads have reduced by 24%. So almost a quarter of our verified students, they have graduated, been dismissed, didn't qualify through testing. They are then put into the MTSS process where we monitor them for a year, and just to make sure that they're progressing and being successful. And then the same for speech, but their numbers have reduced by 56%. So pretty amazing. And these students so far that have been reintegrated kind of just back into the general ed classroom, they are doing really well. So exciting times. And then, I'm going to have you go back because then there's just one more thing I want to just touch on quick about like the SPED strategies. So it's a series of professional development that I'm sure you've all heard about. We've had 7 opportunities through either in person or virtual just to learn about various inclusive practices. So we're excited to really kind of immerse ourselves into that next year and see what goodness we can come up with next year with our numbers. So then that leads us to the next more exciting times is this iPad pilot. So every teacher at Madison has been given an iPad and a stylus, and we've also had sessions with like an Apple Learning Coach. They've come to us, which has been awesome because I feel like I'm pretty techie, but there's so much this can do. So much. So it really has helped just everybody just not be stuck behind a computer. We're able to be out and about, move around rooms, around the room to different rooms and so forth. And the Apple Learning Coaches have been fantastic. I wish we could just have one because there's so much where you're just like, I don't remember how to do that. But just even little things of like taking a screenshot of like a paper, and you're able to project it up and write on it, and students can write on it, and it's just pretty fantastic. The creativeness that we are able to utilize these with is I just can't even say enough about it. Like it's incredible. I'm very thankful for this iPad pilot. My perspective from like the special education world, progress monitoring has been so much easier and just faster because then it's just collected in here and it's not paper pencil and you have to just do all the things. So it has really been a lifesaver and a time saver, and it's just made us more just effective and efficient teachers, I feel. So yay for the iPads, whoever's idea that was. Thank you.
Okay, so then like we talked about, we were going to kind of visit about where we're headed next year on some things. At Madison, we already have been practicing a no cell phone policy. The kids come in and they put their cell phones in the lockers. We really believe in their socialization, getting to learn. Like, we're kind of that melting pot of all the elementaries coming together, so we want them to converse and stuff. But obviously, there's conversations in legislature and things that's going to be going moving forward for all schools. So one of the things that we are looking at is doing a check-in and check-out with the cell phones. Right now, it's kind of on that trust basis that they'll put it in their lockers and lock it up. We don't have too many problems with that, and if we do, the kids will give them up usually right away. But with that being said, we're looking to do that, but also we're going to be doing that with Chromebooks, kind of checking them in and out. Unless they have homework, then they can take their Chromebooks home. But just for the devices, because they do spend a lot of time, and a lot of the things that they're taking their Chromebooks home and doing is not always the educational side of things. So again, they have opportunities to do a lot of technology. There's a lot of technology at home already. So our kind of thoughts is we're really seeing that deficit for kids with the social and truly emotional engagement. So that's one of the things that we're going to be doing. We're going to be putting computer cards into each classroom, and they'll be checking those in and out. And then, like I said, reverse opposite with phones, so they'll be taking those. So we've adjusted our schedule a bit to kind of help fit that. So we'll be talking on this, and then I'll kind of explain our schedule to you. But the Power of ICU is a book study that we did. One of the things that we realized this year with our students was kind of student empty. They're not necessarily wanting to do any additional studies outside of school, or kind of that buy-in to always do their work. It seemed a little bit more prevalent as we had them this year, I guess I would say more than other years. And so we were looking for ways. And we had, one of our teachers had a relative in another school that was using this, and so I picked up the book, and then ironically several of us did. So one thing I never thought I would do would be at fourth quarter invite teachers to do a book study. Just not normally the time of year that a teacher wants something new. But I put it out there and was like, hey, I read this book. It was a really pretty easy read. Who wants to be part of this? Anybody want to read this? We had a good handful of teachers that said they wanted to do it. So we picked a small group, started it, and said, let's just see if this is something for Madison that we think could make a difference. They all read that probably by the weekend and came back, oh yes, can we start trying things? So then we had one of our staff meetings, and like I said, it's amazing to say like how collaborative really our team is. So they all jumped on board, and everybody was like, yeah. And so we actually are doing the book study right now, fourth quarter, as we're wrapping up the school year, planning into next year. But everybody has the book. So our paras have the book, our administrative assistants have the book and are reading it, our office help, everyone has been given the book. In fact, I have a good handful of teachers who have already, it's kind of like a 3 series of book that goes. I have a number of teachers who have already bought up to the 3rd book themselves. I've read the 2nd book, so we are just going to know how to do this. We're excited. It's a lot more about celebrating and not just punishing and rewarding those kids that are doing the right thing, but also finding the time to do it. So we adjusted our schedule, so we are putting in ICU time. We've kind of narrowed down, anybody that knows our schedule, we've kind of had 74 minutes of instructional time. It's really been about 60 minutes of instructional time, and then about 14 minutes of like IE time. And we're doing our interventions and stuff, but we felt like we might be able to do it a little bit more leveled if we put this ICU time in. So ICU is literally what it seems like at the hospital. You're in intensive care. That's what it's going to be. So kids that aren't maybe getting homework done or schoolwork done during the day, they're going to be doing those things. All the kids that are caught up on those things, we'll be doing some enrichment things for them and trying to report it. So we are starting our day with like Smart Start, and then we're jumping into some ICU time. That's why we'll be able to check in and check out technology devices, and then we're ending our day with those two. So hopefully you guys can stop out next year, and we'll get it hopefully running pretty smooth, and we're really excited for it. Lots of great ideas. So, all right. So, our team, crazy as it is. So, any questions for these ladies?
I love the idea that you have the data tracking sheet that you share with Adams. Do you get that from elementary schools when the kids come?
We have not, but it is something we are working with. So
yeah, that would be great.
Yes, it would be, because it is kind of hard to,
yep.
We sometimes feel like there's that little bit of a gap of time, and I would much rather to know. So, yeah. Any questions?
Great, thank you. Yeah.
And thank you guys for sharing. And I appreciate you sharing, because I know a little later we're going to talk about cell phone policies. And so it's good to hear from your building kind of firsthand how that's been going, and the positives that you have seen in those students with their socialization and all of that good stuff. So I appreciate that you guys kind of took that ownership and realized there was a problem and that you're working to address it and that you're sharing that with us. So thank you for that.
Yes, yes. I always say, come on over at lunchtime, but never judge us on the noise because they're actually loud. But it's much better than being quiet and just, yeah, so.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
No. Very informative.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Yes. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, up next, we have our Kids Club report. It's really great to have you guys.
So we have been working all year with Beyond School Bells, and we wrote a grant that involved our videography club from the high school with Phil Willie. And it involved his high school students filming our high school students at work. And they were showcased at the Invitational that was held in Lincoln. And two of our staff went in our place because we were at a national conference. So Jack Busher and Bailey went and did that for us, Bailey Zona, and they are in our Para to Teach program. So they melded in kind of the college side of our staff and then this video that our high school students made about Kids Club and about how high school students are utilized in Kids Club. And we are kind of the model that Nebraska is looking at because without high school students, so many of our programs wouldn't be able to take on as many kids as they do. We're a ratio of 1 to 15. And if you take the high school students away, that's 15 students who currently are employed by Kids Club. And so 15 kids for every one of those staff. That takes so many people off of our wish list. So Beyond School Bells really wanted to heavily focus this video on our high school kids. So I think we'll just watch it and you
Also,
can
though, I want to add that we're getting ready for summer. We're excited. Almost finalized with all the paperwork and stuff on our end of it. And come visit us.
Yeah,
last
come
year we
see
had
us.
a visitor. It's fun. It's fun. It's crazy. It's loud. It's exciting. It's our favorite time of year. So.
I will add, I did get to visit summer.
You
camp,
did.
and it was
Yeah.
fun,
Nice to
crazy,
have you.
and exciting. All of those things.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's good.
It was
Oh,
made
try
extra
not-
crazy with,
it
I think
was.
you were like, everybody wasn't there office renovations?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
No, it was a
Lots
full
going on.
house. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and in August, tragically, we lost one of our after-school program directors in Kearney. She was killed in an accident on her way to work. So Beyond School Bells put together an ELO fellowship and took applications for that in her name. And I found out yesterday I was chosen out of all of the Nebraska after-school directors, one of 7. And so we will spend all of next year really tackling after-school issues and legislation and different things. And so I'm honored, and I will try not to cry about it. I couldn't even open the email for a whole day. I told Delana, my heart, I just can't open it yet. I can't open it yet. So, but this will make you cry tears of joy. So let's watch this.
What makes Kids Club special?
The teachers are they're just really encouraging and engaging, and they want to be with everybody, and they make sure everybody is safe and happy. Like if there's a kid that's having a bad day or has been upset, they'll do their best and put in their best effort to just try to make the day special.
We didn't pay her.
They do a lot of stuff. Really, it's just a mystery. Each day there's something new that most kids don't get to do. I like Kids Club because it's really fun. Everything in Kids Club is just so fun. You can't stop going here. It's
Well, as
as I have told my colleagues across the state, if North Platte, our North Platte Kids Club, isn't the best after-school program in the state, it's one of the best. And so Carrie Linneman, she has about 50 people that she employs. 14 of those are high school students that we, I think, bring a lot of skill set to that program, a lot of activities that they provide our kids. We serve about 400 elementary students across the district through our 7 elementaries, and then about 200 during our summer school program. So, this is such a benefit to the community of North Platte and certainly North Platte Public Schools. We're very proud of our Kids Club program.
I'm Carrie Linneman, and I am the director of North Platte Public Schools Kids Club After School and Summer Program. And just some background about us, we have been in the district 25 years. We have served kids who now work for us, and we're learning through some of those students who work for us now that they would rather see programming that is less academic focused. And they're giving us lots of great feedback on the things that they would like to do and had wished they had gotten to do while they attended Kids Club. So we utilize their talent and we ask them, what is it you would like to see us doing? And now that you work for us, what is it that you would like to be delivering for content? And they're really great at telling us, I wish I had done robotics and I'm really good at that and I would like to share my talent with the program.
In Summer Kids Club, I got to we get to learn math, we get to do fun things in science, grow little plants with fishies that eat the roots. And then we do tech. We got to go to Omaha and watch the Nutcracker.
Beyond School Bells has been great at funding some of those ideas for us. And along with our 21st Century Federal Grant, we kind of braid those dollars to make sure that we are delivering things to our kids that they're interested in. Our high school staff runs an advisory board with our students who attend the program, and we get input from them. We run clubs, so we have, we have technology club, we have art club, we have STEM clubs, cooking, science, anything that our kids ask for and like to do after school, we try to deliver that. Sometimes that is braided in with using our community partners. They're great with us. We work with about 32 different community partners, and they offer all kinds of things for our kiddos. We have therapy dogs come in. And so our therapy dogs are run by a local teacher that we have in our district. She offered one time a few years ago to come in and bring the dogs. It was good for the dogs and thought it'd be good for our kiddos. And here we are 5 years later, and that program has grown to be something really incredible for both the handlers, our students, and I guess the dogs too. They really do love it. They look forward to their visit, and it does what it says right in the name. The therapy dogs give our kids a little bit of social emotional support, and our staff love it. So it's just a really great partnership that we're really proud of. We do Marathon Kids with Trudy Merritt and West Central District Health, and all of our summer students get swim lessons, and we, do pool passes. And we have the extension that comes in, and they do healthy lifestyles and cooking and teaching our kids how to make better choices about things that affect their health overall when it comes to their food choices, when it comes to their physical fitness, and they make it fun. And so we're very, very proud and thankful that they come in and do those things with our students.
We do meal-a-thons most of the time. Miss Trudy just comes and we one. It's part of the meal-a-thon kids thing. We're doing it almost every single year.
We've partnered with Kids Club for many years with a summer program that involves physical activity for kids. We train the kids through their summer program, and then the kids complete a 5K. During the school year, we offer what's called Marathon Kids, and that's a public health program that comes from the University of Texas to us through the University of Nebraska. So it's a program designed to get kids up and moving, and also to build the character traits necessary to be an athlete of character. Kids Club is probably one of the strongest programs
in terms of its alignment with the values of the things that we do. Kids come first, and their physical health and well-being, their mental health and well-being, their social health and well-being are vital to both Kids Club and to us, and so they are like a perfect partner for us to administer this program.
So Marathon Kids that I like about is exercising and getting medals and running with your teams and running with your friends, and you can say that they are doing a great job and you believe in them. And what is the most fun is like your friends are getting the exercise ready, and they can have muscles, and they're super strong, and it matters to be super strong.
All of our high school students are the ones who are in the water. They're doing lessons right alongside of them. They're running with them during Marathon Kids. They're doing Lego Club. They're doing Technology Club. So really, truly, without our high school students, we would not be the program that we are.
My favorite Kids Club teacher is Miss Page, because she helps me when I'm trying to do hard things. I really like how she interacts with us and talks to us about class and how we're learning with stuff, and helps us with homework and stuff. Right now, Miss Page just played with us in the rubber band section.
My name is Paige Suri, and I'm a junior at North Platte High School. I love working for Kids Club because I get to make genuine relationships with these kids and see the impact I truly have on them. They also have a great impact on me and give me something to look forward to every day. It's a great job for high schoolers because it has great hours right after school, and you get to bond with these kids.
Mr. Isaiah, probably because he plays soccer with us outside and does activities with us inside.
My name is Isaiah Henderson. I go to North Platte Public High School. I'm a senior and I work at Kids Club. I like Kids Club because you can have a relationship with all the different other kids and really have a bond with every single one by yourself. And it's just kind of a place where they get to cool off after school, like eat snack, talk with their friends, do homework, play outside, just really anything that they really want to do. We get to do different activities too, like we make snowballs and snowball fight and everything. And we make crafts, we color, really anything that kids like to do.
Mr. Jack, because he made me, because Mr. Jack helps me. So he helped me today, but I asked him, can we go up to the basketball hoop and I can make a score, but I didn't make it. That was fun.
Yeah, so I started working at Kids Club right after I graduated high school when I was 18. And I really wasn't planning on being a teacher. I was just kind of doing it as like a quick summer gig because we do this in the summers too. So started off just a summer job. I was going to college at Mid-Plains, the community college here. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my career. I was thinking about being an electrician or joining the trades or something like that. After working at Kids Club, I just really fell in love with the whole program, fell in love with teaching in general. Quickly decided I changed my major to elementary ed. And so I did that for 2 years. Shortly after, I became the coordinator here last year at Washington. So that's been a blast. I've loved it ever since. And the school's offered me scholarships to continue my education at Chadron.
Miss Knight, she's really nice and she gives us candy. She helps, like, if we don't understand something, she helps. Miss Knight, she's funny and, she's really funny, and she lets us have a lot of candy.
Hi, I'm Nylan Ho. I'm a sophomore at North Platte High School, and I do work at Kids Club. This is my first year. I started in August when I turned 16, and one thing I love about Kids Club is the kids and just the atmosphere of everything going on, and just seeing the kids every day and seeing how their future can become good. I like working with the district because it's good hours and it's every day after school, so it keeps me busy all year round, and just overall, just the kids. I just love working with kids. So.
Our adult staff who work for us and our college staff are so appreciative of our high school kiddos, and really truly with the workforce the way it is, we wouldn't be able to offer programming without our high school students. So we're very thankful that we have a great system in place to hire. We have high school students who have access to our applications right here at the high school, and they fill those out, and our principal kind of goes through those and vets them with us, and we do the interview process and place them in a site. Without our high school students on staff, we really wouldn't be able to be as robust as we are in our programming offerings. So we're very thankful to have them willing to put forth the effort to bring extra programming and experiential learning opportunities for our students, but also that we have Beyond School Bells and 21st Century funding to provide the money needed to make those opportunities happen as well. And we're very thankful for now this new opportunity that we have with our videography team here at the high school, and putting everyone in place to come up with a video that we're using today to promote Kids Club and tell our story.
And I like Miss Savannah because she's pretty nice and she always looks beautiful.
So Mr. Joseph will soon be at Madison Middle School.
He did say, when he got done with that interview, he said, "Don't worry, I made sure to tell him that you look beautiful every day."
Okay, so here's your $5. So does anybody have any questions on any of that? It took kind of a long time to see that, but thanks for everyone's input.
Carrie, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is any of your funding federal then, and is there any concerns with that?
A little bit, little bit coming down now that Dr. Rhodes and I and some of the cohort that I'm involved in are looking at. We were affected by the ESSERs when they stopped the funding with that. So looking at lots of different ways, and I think we have a good support here with our parents, our community, and so if there has to be little changes along the way, I think they'll be accepted. I think one of the changes we did have, our families had to buy their own pool passes this summer. That saved our summer program right around $8,000, but not one person said anything about having to do that. I think that was a $42 expense for them to put forth the money to buy one of those from our rec center, and everyone just said, yep, no problem. You know, for what we get to do for the summer, that's great. So I think little changes, little things, I think we'll have the support and move forward with our community problem. And hopefully this fellowship that I'm going to be a part of will help kind of find other funding or more creative funding streams for us in that way too. So
Kids Club doesn't have a fee.
we don't currently.
Right now.
Correct. The grant sites, federal funding for 21st Century, regulations made it so you could not charge fees to anyone who was free or Regis lunch, and all of our grant sites are CEP schools, so we can't charge any fees there. So yeah, so as a district, whenever that went into effect many years ago, we decided that it wasn't fair for Lake and McDonald and Eisenhower to be the only ones, so we just decided as a district across the board to leave it as no charge. But our families are told multiple times during the year, thank you, they can donate tax deductible, and we have had lots and lots of donations. And we had a $2,000 single donation from a family at summer registration, so there's a lot of support. Anybody else?
Just keep up the great work.
Thank you, appreciate
Yes.
that. I might think up the crazy stuff, but it's all the people in the weeds doing the work that make it happen, so thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Spatansky, I don't know how you're going to follow that, but we are on to our early graduation.
I'll tell you what, it makes me smile to see, like I signed that application. That's awesome. To see all
We gave
those
a
kids.
shout out to you.
So I'm here to talk a little bit tonight about our seniors, specifically. Toward the end, I'll add in the portions about alternative education and early graduation. I just wanted to share a few things with regards to kind of where we're at with our seniors this year. We have already had our February, March, and April senior planning meetings. We've got our final one coming up on May 8th, which is graduation practice. It's a Thursday. The day before that, we do our graduation walk at our elementaries. Kids are looking forward to that already. We're looking at 282 students that will be graduates this year. 276, I think, have indicated they're planning to walk at that commencement. We had 307 when we started the year. Just there's some different things along the year, whether it be non-attendance, those sorts of things. We've had some kids that haven't finished. The Access College Early Scholarships, the A scholarships, we have had 35 of those that have been handed out this year. Awards night for seniors will be on Tuesday, the 29th, and we have actually about a half of our seniors that we recognize. 141. I think there was 27% of our undergrads had an undergrad award night, which that number's going up as well. And a lot of it has to do with the next thing, which is our CTE pathway completers. And so you'll notice at graduation this year there was a stole that our seniors will be wearing. It'll have sublimated symbols for the different pathways that we have at the high school, and if they've completed one of those pathways or multiple, they'll have a stole on as an indication of that. We have 188 students that have taken NPCC courses in the fall, 185 this spring. A total of 2,720 credits have been earned through that. 84 seniors have completed 12 or more hours towards their Mid Plains Community College post-secondary programming and have qualified for that full tuition if they choose that route. We have 3 students that have earned associate's degree, and tuition next year will remain at $50 per credit. So then the questions on the agenda tonight were midterm grads and early grads. So this year we had 62 seniors who were midterm graduates. 52 of those were December, 10 were March. We had our alternative program, which is ran by Carrie Lampy. Carrie is actually the 3rd person that we've had in that alternative program this year. We started the year with Diane Berliner, and she did a tremendous job. We had Jalen Dickey for a short time, and it just didn't work with her college schedule to maintain that. And we've had Carrie now for the last part of semester 1 and all of this semester, and she's done a tremendous job. We've had 41 students that have graduated through our alternative education program, and 10 of them have been undergrads in that program. So up to date through that program, as well as our credit recovery program and summer school, we have 1,030 classes completed for 5,715 credits on engineering completed as of 4/17. So those are some of the statistics with regards to that. So what are some of the questions that y'all might have about either alternative education or early graduation?
Can you remind us just real briefly what students do as far as qualifying for early graduation? Do they have to start thinking about that now? Is it something they can think about this fall? And is there an application, those kinds of things?
So there is an application process, and traditionally we've had that take place in October. What I'm finding is that's kind of late in some of our planning. So we're through our 4-year planning process with our students. Our counselors are already having those conversations with kids and trying to sort that out so that we can build their schedules in a way that allows for that to take place. So if a student is indicating, yeah, I'd like to graduate at December, and I've got all my credits in order to do that, then we'll try to load up their classes in a way that allows English 12 and government to take place in that first semester, and then we'll try then to push those other students, a little bit more toward that second semester, so their schedule's more rich toward the end.
What does the process look like for the alternative education? Like, how do students enter that program? What does that look like for them? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So on our website, if you go to the menu after you've selected schools, go to the menu, and one of the first items on there is about alternative education for North Platte High School, and it has all of the requirements on there, all the pieces that we go through. But if we have a student that's, for a variety of reasons, it could be really isn't just one or two. The word alternate means that there needs to be a different path, right? So they'll have to go through that process with their parents to fill out an application. That is then sent to our administrative team, and then we'll meet with that family and that student, and we'll discuss out, some of the needs that that kid may have. The last two questions on there are the most vital for us because it really asks them, why is alternative education important for you at this time, and why is it not working for you in the classroom? So we'll have a chance to have that real dialogue with them, and then we try to cap those classes at about 20. So sometimes we have, right now we have a waiting list, but we're always prioritizing our seniors because we want to make sure that they have a chance to get to the finish line with their cohort. And as we're getting close to the end of the year, we are taking a few more of those students that have been juniors for this next school year already. So.
Is that a program that, have you seen growth in the number of students that are wanting to pursue that avenue of education?
I think it's been pretty consistent. We do have two sections this year. Last year we ran just the one section, so we added in a second term of that. And, the numbers would indicate that we've had about the same number graduate. We were in the 40s last year, about exactly the same number of kids that were undergrads that graduated. I think we had 9, maybe probably 9 or 10 this year. So I don't know that we're moving more kids through, but I think that the kids that are in there are saturated. They're the right kids. I think what it helps out with too is, it allows students that, it's maybe not working for them in the regular class and they're being, they're distracted, they're disruptive, they're getting into some trouble. It allows them a chance to really lock into their learning this way, and it also makes the environment more rich for those other students in the classrooms that they're leaving. So it's kind of a win-win in many regards. There's a higher number of kids that are graduating as a result of being a part of the program. We're also seeing some other things transpire in the classroom with them in that alternative pathway.
Awesome. Anybody else have any other questions for Mr. Spatansky?
Thank you.
I'll just end, if you guys want to stop at the school on May 2nd, we'll do a celebration for our ACT, so stop on by at about 8:45. We'll recognize a lot of kids that day. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is going to be to reference policy 6025, student cell phone and other electronic devices discussion, and you have our current policy there in front of you. And I will invite you, Dr. Rose, to share with us.
So we've talked a little bit as we've gone through this spring semester, a little bit about LB 140, and LB 140 is Senator Sanders' electronic device in schools bill. That was moved to and voted through the legislature and moved to final reading on April 11th. I have not seen it scheduled yet on the legislature's calendar, but it's going to go through. Yeah. So this is more of an awareness piece and a communication piece to kind of let the board know what we've done so far, the direction we're going, and then the role the board will play in this. So we've been meeting periodically with secondary administrators, Mr. Spatansky, Mrs. Brocious, Mr. Ayers, and Mrs. Volley to talk about what this no electronic device policy is going to look like at the secondary level. In working with our elementary principals, we will have the same policy put into place, but it does not seem, or on their perception is that cell phones are not an issue at the elementary level. So in terms of how we need to regulate this at the secondary, that's really where the crux of making sure that it's enforceable and that we have a good, not just good policy, but a good procedure in place. So if you remember last month, you heard from Mrs. Brocious at Adams. She talked a little bit about cell phones over there. Mrs. Volley talked about it tonight a little bit, kind of that check-in and check-out. And we can certainly ask some questions of Mr. Spatansky, but they're even going to manipulate the schedule at the high school, so there'll be a time in the morning to check in cell phones, and then in the afternoon they'll go back to that bulldog time teacher and check it back out. I think as we discussed it, to say, that the cell phone is shut off and it's out of sight, out of mind, it just isn't going to work, particularly in those secondary buildings where you have that individual passing time where kids have some autonomy. And then, so how do you police that during the 3 to 5 minutes of passing time when you see all these phones out? Is it even enforceable just based on the numbers of students that may be utilizing those? So what you have in front of you is current policy, but on the back side of that is a total ban policy. This, again, is for awareness and communication. We wanted to communicate this to the board. Mr. Peterson has worked with secondary to start messaging this out to students and parents, and we will have some pretty constant and consistent messaging going out at the secondary level so parents know that this will be put in place for the beginning of the 2025-2026 school year. So it's premature at this point to really even do a first reading of a policy. This policy was drafted by KSB about a year ago. Actually, Karen Hasse was the attorney with KSB that put together a ban policy. But remember, within LB 140, there are some requirements on the development of that policy. And so this may have components that'll be in that policy that we recommend to the board, but there'll probably be some other areas that come from LB 140 that'll have to be embedded in this as well. So I have a big thank you to all of our principals, but in particular our secondary principals, because this is uncharted water, I think, for a lot of school districts, particularly at the secondary level. So, as Emily said earlier, Madison kind of has tackled this. They've taken it on, so we kind of have a blueprint of if it is something that's enforced, it works. And I think a lot of times kids will follow the rules, but we're gonna have to have total enforcement across all corners of our buildings when we put this into place. So again, this is more communication. You can take a look at this draft policy, give me some feedback on what you think about the policy, but at the end of the day, it will be a state law, and we will follow that state law. And there's no question that whether you're talking about cyberbullying that happens all the time or just the distractions throughout the day, that electronic devices are a real issue. I think I mentioned there has been an amendment, or was an amendment to this, and all it did was change cell phones to electronic devices. Right. I don't sense any senator coming with any type of amendment. I think the floor of the legislature is in favor of this. It was, I think, a 44-0 vote the last time. I think there were 5 people that did not vote. So we're just trying to get ahead of this a little bit, but we want to make sure that our media gets this out there too, so that we start getting that communication out to parents, because we're going to need our parents' help with this. They're going to have to help support us with this particular policy. So in terms of what that's going to look like in the handbook, the principals right now are working on some consistent language all the way 6 through 12. It'll look a little different based on infractions, first offense, second offense, based on a 6th grader versus a high school student. But we're working on that handbook piece, and of course you approve the handbook, so we'll be bringing that to you probably either in June or July for approval. So, any questions for me on cell phone or cell phone bans, electronic device ban?
I did have a question. So initially, I think when we had originally, this had been on our radar, we were thinking we'd kind of stair-step middle school, high school, but it sounds like everybody would begin this next school year. Is that correct? Yeah, and I think if I remember correctly, that bill will go into effect for the 25-26 school year. So we're going to have to get right on that, and I'm sure it'll be one of the updated policies from KSB. They'll probably make sure that what they have in their new draft policy is what's in state statute as well.
They did put into it, which wasn't there originally, that if schools have their own policies, that they do not have to follow the exact wording, which is very stringent. And so that's why we need to be proactive, and that's why a lot of other schools, and if somebody like Grand Island, who started their own policy a year ago in January, as long as you have, but that wasn't there originally, but they got that put in there, and that's why probably every board, if they are using their head, are discussing this if they don't have a cell phone policy. And then in my legislative committee, we have talked about this, and a lot of schools are either using this or the one Perry law firm put out. But it has to be looked at after they pass that. But it will go into effect for the 25-26 school year. So, yeah, they just need one more time. And I would assume it's going to be, not real soon because the budget's coming out, but they will make sure this one gets through before they adjourn.
Yeah, I think there's probably 15 or 20 bills that are on final that they know have the votes. So those won't be, they'll be last minute scheduled because they know it won't take a lot of debate and they'll get them through. And this certainly will be one of those bills. So.
The only thing I noticed when looking at that is it doesn't say anything about the students that need it for medical. So
and that will be part of the new policy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good question.
Yeah, because that is very clear in state statute.
Yeah, I was like, I read
in
that
the
in
bill.
the state
In the
bill.
bill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will say our media must have been doing a good job putting something out about this or something was shared because about 4 o'clock today my phone blew up with parents wanting to know what's going on with cell phone policies and what we were talking about tonight. And so I will just share because from a former teacher, I've always thought that this was a good idea. They're a distraction. But I always kind of thought parents would be the hardest ones to get on board. So when my phone blew up, I was like, oh, great. Where's this going to go? And I welcome a variety of opinions. So I made a bunch of phone calls before I came here. And I was surprised that everyone that reached out with some questions and concerns, they all explicitly stated that they would be in great favor of a cell phone ban, that it would probably hurt their children's feelings for a little bit, but that they all kind of expressed what Mrs. Volley kind of talked about, that social piece of it. So not just the distraction element, but that they really feel like they want their children to learn to have face-to-face conversations with people and, have all of those benefits of not having a phone in your hand all the time. And so that was, I guess, good to see because, they're not really going to have a choice if the state forces our hand at this, but we really do need to do a good job as a district of educating our staff and our parents and our students about why this is so important and why we're not just doing it because we have to, we're doing it because it's the right thing to do. So that was encouraging to hear. So, anyone else have questions or comments about cell phone policies? All right. Our staffing update. Mr. Mills.
Thank you. A couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I talked to you guys about Midlands University in Fremont, that we were able to get part of that program, which came from working on the strategic plan. Well, happy to announce we got 5 spots. So those paras now have been selected. They're applying to the university at Midlands, and then they're going to start class June 2nd. And they're going to be ready to teach North Platte in August of 2027. So very exciting news of that new program. I just got another email today that we can even put in for if we want to have a couple backups, that they'll take a couple extras. So looking at that now. So we just want to start with that exciting news because obviously staffing is very difficult everywhere, not just North Platte, but it's difficult everywhere. All staffing conversations are happening consistently, constantly with elementary principals, secondary, directors. Pretty much all we talk about is staffing because there's a shortage. It's truly a shortage. We've hired 22 awesome new teachers for 25-26. We've moved around 9 administrators within our district and hired 3. And so we have a nice group, but unfortunately we still need 9 more spots filled of where we're at right now, predominantly elementary. We have a lot of people a lot of minds, a lot of eyes looking at a lot of things. So I feel confident about it. We have some people we're going to talk to. And again, I was sharing with Dr. Rhodes and other directors, you just never know where these things are going to come. I had a phone call earlier this week, someone that's interested in teaching. They called Washington Elementary. Washington Elementary contacts me, contacts Jordan. We call them, we bring them in. They want to get into teaching. So again, we just never know what's going to happen. We've had about 3 of those. So other than that, we're obviously advertising and looking for staff that we need. We were punched in the gut a little bit this week with our journalism. We had journalism locked down. Unfortunately, that person was unable to fulfill that contract, so we're back at looking at journalism again. And again, things happen with people's lives too. So the big part though is really working with those pairs, and I think I told you we've hired 2 of our own already from our Pair-to-Teacher program that we've already started. So those people are already hired, and then we'll have pairs coming out every semester for the next 3 years. So we just got to get through the next year or so, but we have staffing that will be coming, and it is all internal. Everything we're doing, from what Carrie talked about with the high school kids. I would love to make a video with Joseph, I think, for HR. I think we might get somewhere with him. But looking at those high school kids, and we talk to those kids all the time. I know all of them, because I went and had a conversation with every one of them. They're like, oh, I don't know if I want to go into teaching, Mr. Mills. But we have conversation with all those individuals. Every pair that he mentioned, we have conversations with all of them. So we have a couple others that want to get into teaching, but they don't have the credit. So the next program we're looking at is going to be like a three-year program. So working with Midlands right now on that program as well. So more to come of more grow your own, because that's everything we do. Kids to pairs, pairs to teachers, teachers to administrators. Questions for me about staffing? Did I miss anything, Dr. Rhodes?
No, I don't think so. I think you've heard us say before that we're relatively fortunate being here in North Platte. I don't think we have the vacancies that other districts have. So I think the nice thing we have here, and have had, is, and we're going to see more of it with the growth of economic development, it always amazes me when a new business brings in employees and their spouse is a teacher. Yeah. And so, as Mr. Mills and I spoke today, we hired 2 fantastic teachers a year ago this coming July. So Mr. Mills will continue to recruit all the way up and through July, and we'll fill these positions. And also as he communicated, we kind of have a bit, I guess it would be an RTA process that sometimes when we have these openings, we'll have teachers in the district will say, I'd like to be considered for that position. So, and we've had a couple. We've had some of those. So. Absolutely. It's the nice thing about being a little bit bigger district and not terribly rural as well.
When you have teachers come from another state, there's a process they have to go through to get certified to be able to teach in Nebraska.
Yes.
Is there any kind of like leniency in the period of?
Well, they made it reciprocal now, so it goes like this now.
Good.
For years, it took forever for out of state. They made it reciprocal. So every teacher, like we have one coming from Wyoming, Colorado, and another state. But I always tell them, get your certificate there, because Nebraska is reciprocal and you get it immediately. And we did that with a couple of our international teachers who actually had a New Mexico certificate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, it's helped recruiting a lot. And I got to put props out to the NDE certification officer, because Kathleen, she is outstanding. I mean, I can talk to her personally, I can call her, email her. She's on top of everything. So that's helped the whole state a lot, that hire. Yeah, good question.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, our budget retreat discussion. Dr. Rhodes, what do you
So
have for us?
I would like to put out a doodle poll to the board for various times the week of June 2nd. I would like to have that retreat that first week of June, and then that following Monday we would have regular board meeting. We could discuss a little bit of budget then, bring it back during the committee of the whole in June. Now, the other thing is I really want Dr. McDonald to be a part of the retreat as well. So I'm going to invite him to fill out that doodle as well. You know, if my memory serves correctly, the past 2 or 3 years, we've kind of shot for like at 10 o'clock, so we're done by noon. It's usually about a 2-hour workshop retreat. We really can't do it before that because we're waiting on property evaluations, that preliminary, just to see where that piece is going to be. We know where we're going to be state aid-wise. We'll do an estimate of ESSA grant and IDEA, our 2 big federal grants. I think there is some speculation that we'll get less in terms of federal grants. If that works for this group, if we can start with that doodle poll and we can come up with a date and a time, we'll kind of shoot for that, and then we can kind of get through June. Last year we had 2 retreats, and if we need another one in July, we can have another one in July. That sound all right with everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get that sent out early part of next week, then we can get that scheduled.
Is there any way when we do that, could we go ahead and look at a secondary date in July to have kind of as a tentative?
We could do that.
And if as
at
a board we feel we don't need it,
Right.
then we could change that. But I just know, like, my own schedule this summer between all the things with kids and trips and everything. My concern is I want to make sure everyone can be at that, and so if we're doodle polling, we may as well doodle poll for both, maybe. All right. Anything else on that? Okay. Our review of the 3000 series policies. We've got a book for each of you. There's also an attachment though now on Spark if you.
Oh, good.
They get thicker as we go.
Yes, they do.
These are only half of the 3000, so buckle up.
Yes, so this is 3001 through 3023.
Okay, so I will just make mention of a few of the notes that have come up, and then I'll just open that up if anybody has any additional notes and changes. Dr. Rhodes, if you have anything to add after that, and then we can discuss any of these. You probably won't want to discuss all of them, I'm guessing, but we can if you want to. So looking through the 3000s policy, hopefully when you look through this book, we probably all owe Sheila like a bouquet of flowers and a giant thank you.
A little stronger.
Well, I was too, but I didn't know what I could say in the meeting, Sheila. So these were truly, they were kind of a mess. I think there were some things that were copy pasted from other places, probably multiple people editing them, brought in from Word docs, brought in from different places. And so they are much cleaner now. Like these are kind of fun to read. So thank you, Sheila.
I'm sure they'll still be
Fun to read.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, now we're exaggerating.
Yeah. So some of the ones, most of those formatting changes are really just going through and being consistent in our use of Roman numerals, the capital lowercase numbers, and then just numbers. There were some that had some kind of weird things going on in them with just like some random numbers that appeared, some random bullet points, line breaks, empty pages, things like that. So a lot of that was cleaned up. The big ones that probably had the most formatting changes that you may want to just take a glance at would be that 3003.1. I think between Joanna and I, we had like 4,000 notes on that one. So that one had a lot. 3004.1 is another one that had pretty significant formatting changes done. And then I think the other one I noted was 3014 had quite a few as well. Then moving down the list, I'll just kind of make mention of some specific things where we maybe had questions and notes, and then I would love to discuss. Okay, let's see. We did talk about, so I think Joanne had a question, and Dr. Rhodes, maybe you have an answer for us on 3002, just if we had safes in each of the buildings?
Not every building has a safe, but we do have, several of our buildings across the district do have safes.
Okay. Was there a need to update anything in there, or it's okay as
No,
it is?
I think we're good.
Okay.
We're still, that policy still covers those buildings, you know. For instance, the high school activity office has a safe. There's also a safe that's in the, kind of the back storeroom of the high school. So Adams has a safe in their workroom. I think those are the two that come to mind that still have safes in.
Okay. In policy 3004, I had just made a note, that policy references a couple of other policies in there, and so you'll just see, and I had made the request that when we do that, we just try to put in parentheses what that other policy number is. Because our policies, there's a lot of them, and it can be hard to navigate if you're just looking for a name of a policy, but when you have the number of it, they're in numerical order, so that makes it a little bit easier to navigate. Then 3007 was one that we probably need to take a look at, and Joanne brought this to attention just because it really did not line up with what we are actually doing as a board. I'm just going to pull it up on here because I'm going to flip through there. So Dr. Rhodes, I saw that you had made some changes to that. Would you like to
Yeah,
share
so
about that?
that's the review of bills, and I believe the way the policy currently reads is that the board president will either select a board member or a committee that will review all bills. And of course, we've kind of used the claim audit system where we rotate two board members monthly. And then by the time we go through that process, usually you've audited twice within an academic year. So the rewrite, this is just for a draft. What I had put together was members of the North Platte Board of Education will meet with the superintendent of schools or designee each month to review all bills that are to be presented to the board for payment through a claims audit process. The claims audit will consist of 2 board members who will rotate each month for the sole purpose of reviewing the monthly bills. The board members auditing the monthly claims will report their recommendations to the board. So I think the discussion we need to have, I think the first part of that probably is fairly accurate in terms of how we operate. I think maybe there needs to be a little bit of wordsmithing because generally the board president will ask at the end of the consent agenda, will announce who the 2 board members were, and then do you have anything? It isn't a formal report. If you're fine with the way that's worded, I'm fine with it as well, but nonetheless, that's not, you don't give a formal report. You kind of talk about how that day went or how that claims audit went. So if you want to suggest different language with that last sentence, or if you are fine with the way it is, or any changes with that particular.
No, I think the idea is that when we do audit and we're finished, we sign it.
Right.
So to me, that means that you agree to what is there. And then most of us, you know, at the end, like last month, it was Justin and myself, and we all said we had questions and they were answered, so it was fine. And so we did sign them. So I think that you do make a recommendation by signing.
Okay.
I think that we could probably, just in the way that we operate our meeting, make that a point to actually ask those individuals what their recommendation is. I don't think it probably needs to be a lengthy discussion, but where we did it before and we just kind of went through everything in the consent agenda and just voted on it, I think that kind of made it more difficult for people who are doing the audit to share something.
Sure.
But I do think it could be a good process because I don't think it's happened, but if there were to come a point where a board member maybe did not sign off on the audit or had a concern, I think it would be necessary and appropriate to discuss it there. So I'm not opposed to leaving the language as it is.
Okay.
That would just put a little responsibility on me as president to make sure that we make that happen.
Any other suggestions or comments on that, on 3007?
Okay. On then I believe the next one that had a recommended wording change was on this 3008. And I saw, Dr. Rhodes, did this come from KSB or was?
Yeah, you know,
Okay.
actually, so what I try and do is what we have in the policy and what we're reviewing, then I go to the KSB policy portal and see what their initial recommendation was. And our old policy was kind of carte blanche in terms of gifts, grants, and bequests that the superintendent or his or her designee could accept or whatever. And their policy actually reads anything above 10,000 will be approved by the board, which I think is appropriate. So if we can estimate that it has a fair market value above 10,000, we're not going to accept that at the district level until we bring that to the board, and then we'll have the board approve that.
Give me an example.
Pardon me?
Give me an example of what?
Property, you know, that might be valued above that 10,000. Which I think we'd bring something like that to you anyway, but, you know, anything really can be a gift. It could be a structure, it could be a facility, could be a vehicle, you know, those different types of things. I think very rarely are you ever going to get to that $10,000 threshold, but I think that warrants board approval.
Makes sense.
I think we have had some cash donations toward projects over that amount as well in the past. So.
Yep.
Oh, we would welcome gifts over 10,000.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
Let's just make that known. I had a question, not a change, but I just thought since we do have some change in board members, it's always good to look at policy 3010 discusses just our insurance coverage as a board, and I was hoping, Dr. Rhodes, do you have any information on that you can provide to us?
Yeah, so when we look, I mean, we have a broad array of insurances that is needed at the district level. So we have property coverage, we have general liability, we have flood, automobile. You know, something that is new in the last 5 or 6 years is cyber insurance. That's become a huge piece of our contract with HUB, and those school districts that use ALICAP, it's the same thing. That's added a little bit. Inland marine, which is insurance on band instruments and those different types of things. We have linebacker coverage as well. That covers the board. And then, of course, we have crime, workman's comp, and those are with different insurance carriers as well. So a wide variety of insurance packages that warrant this type of policy.
And the board itself is covered.
The board is covered, absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
That was one thing I wanted to make sure. I don't know that that's maybe just not common knowledge that everyone would know that, so.
Yep.
I had a note on, and this one I don't know if I initially sent over to you, Dr. Rhodes, but I just wanted to discuss. I actually think we've had a couple board members bring up policy 3013, emergency closings.
Yeah.
I think Angela had some questions maybe a couple months back, and then Justin had also brought up that there were questions a couple months back to look at it. And so I wanted to take a look at this one and see if there was anything that as a board, if we needed to add anything in here to kind of better lay out what we do with bad weather, or if there are other instances that we would need to close school, or if we're okay with this policy as it is. So I would love to hear, if you need to take a minute to review that policy. It's pretty short, but I would love to hear from the board and Dr. Rhodes on what your thoughts are there. And Justin and Angela, if you have.
Ultimately, I think what was February, we had super awesome weather that kind of led to some emergency school closures, and it was mentioned it's more of a procedure that we're following. It's not necessarily the policy. The policy kind of points to procedure. And if there's any way for us to kind of clean that up and just get it to the policy.
Yeah.
With the exemption of, these are expected policies, these are the things that are going to close it, but if at any time the superintendent determines there needs to be a closure, he still has that right to do it.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is that cold weather procedure that we've used in the past. So what had happened, and I think this was kind of kind of unknown to a lot of superintendents is that the National Weather Service changed how they were, what they were calling cold weather. And so what we had used in the past was always that threshold that was, I believe it was minus 35 wind chill. And they changed it from, I think there was watch warning, and now they call it something different. So Mr. Peterson has put that together for us, and we have that on the website, what necessitates a cold weather closing. Now, we can do more around that, because when I look at that, I'm always kind of the advantage that if we can get kids to school, I want them in school. You know, our schools are warm, we've got meals, but if that temperature, if the forecast is that we're going to stay in that particular zone throughout the school day, then I don't want kids out there walking in minus 30 wind chill. So if the forecast suggests that by 10 o'clock in the morning, the wind chill is dropping to minus 10, we're going to have school on that day. And we can put more clarification around that. I don't think that belongs in policy. I think that belongs in procedure, that we do a better job communicating out.
Well, and I think one of the things that we possibly could add is that if anyone, wanted a reference point, it's in our students' handbooks.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if there was a line in here that said, that just referred people to...
Closing information procedure can be found in student handbooks or on the website.
Mhm.
Yeah, something
Because
along those
that's,
lines.
that's something that, those are things that we review every year and approve those as well. And so I think that would fit right in line with this.
That's a good idea, Joanne.
I think that would be good, because if you have somebody that's looking for that information and they just go to policy thinking that's where they should look, not realizing it's somewhere else, this would at least point them to where
Good
that
idea.
is. Yeah, that's
We
good.
will add that in.
Yes. Thank you, Joseph, for bringing that back up. Okay, then the next ones, I honestly have just had a couple of community members bring up some clarifying questions on a couple of these. So the next one that I had on my list was 3015. And I think I know the intent of this policy, but I think maybe the verbiage is what's confusing people a little bit. So it states that North Platte Public Schools, high school, middle schools, and elementary schools will not schedule functions, practices, or games on Wednesday night. But then after the semicolon, it says all events shall be scheduled to end by 6:30 p.m. Is that saying they need to end by 6:30
Yes.
p.m. on Wednesday nights?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm wondering if we need to wordsmith that sentence a little bit, because if you read them as two separate sentences rather than like a caveat, it reads that there shouldn't be functions on Wednesday nights. So I'm not sure what the right wording is. It's probably a really simple verbiage change. And maybe it just needs to be that all
could
high
just
school,
be
middle school, elementary
Beyond
events.
6:30 on a Wednesday night.
Yeah. Because that's how I know that is the intent of it, but it is a little bit confusing.
But that's still one sentence.
Yes.
That is one sentence. It's
Yes.
not divided.
Agreed.
So that, if you're looking at it technically, that refers back to the Wednesday night.
Yeah, but it's kind of talking out of both ends.
Yeah, because if you say it will not schedule functions, then
I can see how.
Then you
can
say
interpret
they should be
that.
scheduled
It's
to end
still
by a certain time.
A specific sentence.
Yeah.
That refers to Wednesday.
Right.
Yeah, if we could just ultimately just clean it up.
Well, yeah, if you just say,
Because they're going to
will
have
not
practice this Wednesday
schedule
night.
functions
Everybody
past
knows that.
6:30.
Right. If I was an athlete, we didn't have practice Wednesday nights, I would have been thrilled.
Right?
And games Friday?
How does this sound? All North Platte Public Schools, functions, practices, events, or games will end by 6:30 on Wednesday nights, or something to that effect.
Will be
I
scheduled
think
to
that
end
would
by
be
6:30.
perfect. Yeah. Yeah,
Just
I
cleans
think
it up a
so.
little.
And obviously, the only caveat with that is the NSAA, and if it's weather-related and they postpone something.
Well, that-
Right. Well,
Yeah, that's what that
approval of the
sentence is
superintendent,
for.
so, yeah.
Is that if the
Yeah.
NSAA says this is the only time you're going to play that district final, then we're going to play that district final most likely. So, yeah, we'll change that.
Okay. Yeah, everybody knows there's practice on Wednesdays. It's just one of those things. Then on the next one, 3016, I had a couple of questions about tobacco use. So we're very specific about our facilities being tobacco free, but we have events that happen off of our North Platte Public Schools campus. And so the question that was brought to me was, is that allowed by staff or by whomever that would be covered in this policy at a North Platte Public Schools event, say at baseball field or at you know what I mean, the different places that those events have. And so I just wanted to, it was more of a question of if we needed to specify that, or I don't know. We're probably unique to some other districts in having those community resources where we have our events. I was curious, Dr. Rhodes, your thoughts on that? Or your
Well,
thoughts?
I think whether you're talking about the Dowhauer softball complex or the tennis courts, we still enforce it. I think we've taken the stance, it's our activity, and in essence, it is our property, so, and those are our kids. So I think we still enforce it as much as possibly. With students, no question, we do. The adults, it's a little bit more difficult, especially with those outside events. A little bit easier at Bauer Field, where you're going to go to have your cigarette that isn't on campus, Now, softball complex, you could walk over to the parking lot, and we're probably going to have a difficult time policing the adult in that case. So, yeah, I'm open to suggestions on if you want to reword that. I think you run a little bit. It's going to have to be so specific that it is a North Platte property, because it is the objective of the home site to police that. And so, we don't go and police that at Kearney High, for instance, other than our kids a lot of times. So, I think we follow this policy regardless of where we're at in our community.
So we could just put in something simple, it's not permitted on school property or any school-sponsored event, which
Hosted
by
I think
North
you
Platte
need that
Public Schools, something
hosted.
like that.
You would need that, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good.
Whatever legal person here can support that.
Well, and that's kind of an interesting point, because I know, for example, with tennis and potentially golf, there are other schools that will host events, that our students may attend, but it's not being hosted by our school, like at the park or at the golf course, or
Right.
and then in some of those public spaces too, you're going to have other people there that aren't necessarily affiliated with the students or the schools, or and so just.
I think the difference with it, this policy is based on state statute, and school campuses are tobacco-free. So that's the intent, really the intent of this policy is that you're following state law. And state law is saying that your school property, what you own, is tobacco-free. Mm-hmm. And so, nonetheless, we still do our best to enforce that within our community if we're utilizing a different facility or grounds or whatever the case may be, so.
I think your suggested change is good, as long as that, do you feel like that opens up a can of worms for us that
Well-
could cause any problems? Because I want to make sure we consider any implications
I think like you
before
said,
we go.
if we're hosting it, it's our property for the time that we're hosting it, in all reality. Because our students are on it, we're responsible for them, we're responsible for the people that are there.
Well, and it might be something you could just run by legal counsel too, just to.
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like I've heard an announcement at the softball diamonds about tobacco use at high school games. So
If we're doing it, I think just having it written down then just, again, buttons it up and gives people that reference point to know ahead of time, if it's possible. Like, call the lawyers, man, that they've got to.
Yeah, I'll give Bobby Truitt a call and see if he can put some language that covers the other areas that we utilize.
Okay, and then I had a note, Joanne, that you had a question on 3020 about maybe adding like a note in there about how that information is made available. Did you have any more thoughts on that, on what you think would maybe be a good addition there? Or Dr. Rhodes, did you have anything? Because I know you had the notes.
Yeah, I think I communicated back to Joanne in terms of copyright with staff. What we're going to do is we're going to add this policy into our checklist. So it'll be in that staff handbook as one of the required policies that they'll have to sign off on. I know that there's a little bit in here as it relates to, isn't there something in here on students too, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, where I had my note was under the distribution of copyright compliance
Staff and
materials.
students, yeah.
And I just made a note that said how.
Right. Like, is it on the website, is a handbook? Yeah, I see your question.
I think for the most part, I think some of that comes through teaching and learning a lot of times. And then most of our teachers know what copyright means and what the violation is on those different types of things. But as it relates to curriculum, the way that we develop our curriculum and our resources and that approval process, I think we do a pretty good job of communicating that with staff, with teachers.
So is it enough, you think, just to say that the information is available, or do we need to communicate how that information is available to them?
I think it's all right the way it's stated.
Sheila, just for a note on that one, there is a typo. It's down in course materials subject to copyright protection, and there's a word that's long as, but it's like all long. It's down toward the bottom of that paragraph.
Yeah, it should be only as.
Only as long as.
It should be as long as required.
I don't know, that version's fun.
Well, Sheila, you knew there'd be more.
Sorry, Sheila.
There goes those flowers.
Okay, then I just had a note on 3023. Nothing here to change. I found it interesting when I read about the school affiliated social media posts and pages that those are held to a required, like you have to maintain messages and correspondence for a certain amount of time. And I just wanted to make sure that for all of our individuals who are managing those pages, that they know that is a requirement, because that's not something I would have thought of.
Yep. Brian Tegmeyer and his team, along with Brandon, do a great job of making sure that we keep all those documents for
Excellent.
Required.
I figured we probably had something in place there, but like I said, that was something that I would have never thought of. And then let's see, is that the last one? 3023 is the last one for this round. So are there any other notes, any other formatting changes, any other questions, changes, anything like that anyone had made note of that we did not already discuss?
I just had a question, and this is something that I know, it's in policy, but it could be maybe corrected procedurally if there is still some discrepancies, but so under 3 with building specific purchasing and B, I guess. So it talks about how the principals in consultation with their staff are responsible for requisitioning, managing, distributing, and utilizing supplies within the building.
What can you tell us policy?
Oh, sorry, 3004.1, I think.
Sorry, Joanne, you were
No,
a couple
it's
steps
okay.
ahead of us.
Nope, it's just in the regular 3,004,
Page
sorry.
3. Or page 2. What? No, page 2.
Yeah, so
section
under the
3.
buildings specific purchasing and not letter B. And I think it's great. The principal should be in charge of those things. I have seen in the past, though, that we've had instances where there's classrooms that are connecting and one classroom gets carpet and the other one gets postponed because they don't have the funds and those sorts of things. And not that it's necessarily a problem, but it's one of those things that I think just aesthetically for the school, it sometimes, it's just not the greatest.
I would consider carpeting, for instance, the same as a section of roof or a particular HVAC unit. So we have a carpeting schedule across the district because it's so expensive. We just can't we can't replace carpet in every building. So we have that schedule put together. Mr. Simpson and Lori have put that together, and of course, Mr. Ayers has been involved in those conversations. So it is kind of by need, kind of a priority, based on the, if the carpet is torn or whatever the case may be. And then, of course, that we're going back with the carpet tiles. So now, I will tell you, the building principals will put on their summer work orders a lot of times that they want classroom 304 to be carpeted. And then we'll compare that to the schedule that we have. So this is more your every year requisitions at the building level. Expo markers, those different types of things. Does that make sense at all?
Yep.
Because that's just a little bit higher dollar type of cost for us. So, and having the 11 buildings, we've got to figure out how to manage all those.
And do we have anything in place where there's maybe a group of people who aren't in that building every day that kind of go through all of the buildings and notice things that maybe people that are in the building every day don't notice?
Yeah, so currently, Lori and Dan, what can I think of Dan's last? Sims. They meet with every building principal on a monthly basis, and they'll do walkthroughs of that building. They'll point out, Dan's there usually for electrical and plumbing, and then Lori's there for different infrastructure. So they go over a wide variety of things, but they spend about an hour and a half with each building principal on a monthly basis.
Okay.
And then currently, Mr. Simpson and Lori, along with Mr. Ayers, are doing all their spring walkthroughs in all of our buildings as well. Good questions.
Yeah, good question. Thank you. I guess I realized, Dr. Rhodes, I had skipped over one, and I'm assuming I know you have answers for all my questions. I
Well, maybe,
so we'll
I
go
don't
back
know.
to it. On 3005, I had just had a question about, I'm sure this is more of a procedure, but I wasn't sure what that procedure was. We have in policy 3005 that any deficit in the activity fund shall be paid from the general fund.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're responsible for paying for things as a district. So I was curious more than anything if there was a set process of is there a set dollar amount? Is there a specific
Yeah,
documentation?
so
How does that work?
during budget development, generally what the district has always done is they've estimated what they think the potential transfer could be for that given year or that given activity. Now, if it's at the building level, it's really somewhat up to the discretion of the principal to decide what they have left in their building fund and whether they want to move it to depreciation, or all of our buildings have an activity fund as well, and they can make that determination just within their building. But in most cases, Mr. Simpson, he puts a document together in August that already lays out what he thinks might need to be transferred, just based on what that particular activity account had done the previous year. Now, you might have an activity fund that for whatever reason all of a sudden has an expenditure of an extra $5,000 that you just couldn't forecast or foresee. And then this policy, what the policy does is it gives discretion then to subsidize that activity fund with general fund dollars. So we don't have a lot of movement back and forth as it relates to transfers. In my experience as a former kind of finance person in the superintendent role at smaller districts, if something happened during the course of a year that I knew there were going to be receipts that were going to come back in, then we always had to transfer back into the general fund. We do a little bit of that as well. You know, if you're talking about athletic gates, for instance, you have to wait till the end of the season until you accumulate all the receipts from the gates, and then you move that back into general fund if you have to subsidize that particular activity fund.
Okay. And that's what that previous statement allows us to do, that
Yes.
that can be transferred
Yep.
back into any
Yep.
other school.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And then there were a couple of questions and recommendations. I don't know, did you see Terry's recommendations?
Yeah, so
at the foundation?
I've been working with Terry probably for the last 18 months. I know that she would like some foundation language in 05, 08, and I believe what is 3024 that we'll review next month. I don't think it's fair to Dr. McDonald to do anything with those policies currently. I want to get him here, the 3000s are really the finance department. I want him to work with Terry a little bit and make some decisions around whether or not we start to fold in the foundation a little bit. So, and I've communicated that with her.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure, and I wanted that to kind of be on the board's radar, that there might be some things that at a later date, there might be some recommended changes there, just to ensure that we're partnering with the foundation as best as we can.
I did add in your packet, you have a couple documents that were added in around the 3004. One is our district purchasing guidelines that is for all staff. And then the other one is what we have staff sign if they're going to use one of our district P cards. And so, again, it's mentioned in 3004. It's not the P card. We don't have P card policy. We have a procedure that is in place. So I think the language in that policy does reflect this document then. So if you have questions as you look that over, this is an end policy. I just wanted to provide that for your information.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns, changes?
So I've got 3007, 3008, 3013, 3015, and 3016 as policies at the May board meeting that we'll ask for an adoption on, that are significant changes. And I know Emily has said this, big thank you to Sheila. She actually had to retype those. There was no way to go back and reformat them, so.
I've word processed for 45 years now, and Google Docs is not my thing.
No,
If you start with
it's-
Google Docs, it's fine, but it's like Emily said.
We tried a
you
variety of ways
oh
to
my
try,
word.
and we had tech involved.
You couldn't
and-
even delete a page break. It was.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But thank you for thinking this.
Okay, if there's nothing else on these policies, we will go ahead and move on. If you do see anything after tonight, please just let myself or Dr. Rhodes know, and we'll make sure that we bring that up for discussion prior to taking action on those at our next meeting.
The only thing I had questions on was the volunteering. It shows that we do background checks on all of our volunteers. Just because of my job, I have to fingerprint all my volunteers. You don't have to do that in the school district?
Mr. Mills, do you know?
Not for volunteers. For others, they have to do the fingerprint for certified.
Yeah, for all our employees.
Right, but not for volunteers?
Not for volunteers, correct.
Okay, I have a question on that too, sorry. So,
Is it on the agenda?
well,
Sorry.
we don't, I don't know. Because when we have parent volunteers, we don't necessarily do background checks on them. Is that right? I mean, so I'd have to go back and look at the policy, but do we need to differentiate between?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, I've been in the school district buildings before being on the board, and I've never had a background check. I mean, I have a background check, but not for the school district. So how many are getting in that aren't getting that background check done?
I know that was a subject that we hit home pretty hard with building administrators 2 years ago during pre-service. We had talked a lot about, making sure, that people were raptoring in when they came in. And, we have that.
Jordan was just saying the Raptor would catch.
Yeah,
us.
the Raptor
With like a
should.
sex offender or-
I mean, it's catching, if they're on the registry, for instance.
And then, do you know, like, as far as our activities, if we have parents traveling, like on a field trip, or when the kids go to the musical with the middle school, do we have a process to vet those parents?
I will get back to you on that.
Especially overnight trips.
I believe we have a form, but don't quote me on that. I'll look into that.
Okay.
Get back to the board on
Yeah,
that.
that would be great.
Good. All right. Last call for questions. I think this is the 4th time I've done this. I love that we have lots of engagement in these, though. These are going to be great policies when we're done. Okay, we will move on then to our science standards presentation with Mrs. Douglas and Mrs. Carlson. Would you like us to come somewhere behind you? Some of us might need to read lips while we listen also, so that would be helpful.
No, that's good. So we're just going to share a little bit of information about the Nebraska 24 College and Career Readiness Science Standards. So the Nebraska State Board of Education adopted the Nebraska College and Career Ready Standards for Science on September 6th of 2024. Dr. Rhodes did share that adoption information with the Board of Education in a fall weekly update. The development of those revised standards were guided by the National Research Council's text, which is called a Framework for K-12 Science Education. And that framework actually identifies 3 dimensions of learning for our area of science. So the first dimension is the disciplinary core ideas. Topics within the DCI dimension include, but are not limited to, things such as ecosystems, matters and its interactions, motion and stability, energy, earth systems, and engineering design. The second dimension of learning is the cross-cutting concepts. Topics within the CCC dimension include, but again are not limited to, patterns, cause and effect, scale, proportion, quantity, energy and matter, and structure and function. And then the third dimension of learning is the science and engineering practices. Topics within the SEP dimension include, but again are not limited to, asking questions, defining problems, developing and using models, planning and carrying out investigations, analyzing and interpreting data, and then using mathematical and computational thinking.
All right, so the College and Career Ready Standards for Science, they're organized by grade level for K through 8. As you get into the high school standards, they're organized by content areas, so like physical science, life science, earth science, space and chemistry. Most of the changes from the 2017 to the 2024 are just small word modifications and word additions, most often applying the higher level thinking skills and applications. So as we move into our summer curriculum work, our work with staff will focus on becoming familiar with the changes in the standards, and we will work with our staff to align the unit guides according to the implementation of the new standards. The review and adoption of new materials will be considered during the 25-26 academic year. We will pilot and be looking at some materials, and then we will have new material implementation following that in the 26-27 academic school year. So we will be formally asking the Board of Education next month to adopt the Nebraska 2024 College and Career Ready Science Standards at the May 12th board meeting.
Questions about the science standards?
I will resend that information out to the board
Yeah,
in
thank
an
you. Get that out to
email
you.
tomorrow, because I think it was November when we sent it out.
That was
so-
October or November. I
Now
went
that,
back
and it
looked.
has several links on there that you
Mhm.
can go to the NDE's website and take a look. But I think as both Mrs. Carlson and Mrs. Douglas alluded to, most of it is language. There really isn't a ton of content changes in these standards. But remember that policy and procedurally, in terms of our core curriculum, You approve the standards, that becomes our curriculum. And as they said, we pilot resources with different grades and different teachers across the district. And then whatever resource seems to be the best resource to teach that content is the resource that we purchase.
Yeah.
So.
Great.
Thank you, ladies.
Absolutely.
All right, at this time, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call.
Angela Blazy.
Aye.
Justin Thompson.
Aye.
Joanne Langerty. Anna Mary.
Aye.
Cindy O'Connor. Skip Alpay.
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned, I believe, for